First of all, thank you for everybody. Thanks for coming out this evening. I know that we've been trying to get together now for almost the better part of 2 months. I thought for sure when this got scheduled for the second, we'd have 2 feet of snow today. It seems like that's how it's working out. But we have a lot of progress to talk about today, so I'm excited that everybody can be here. Before we do that, we can maybe do a round of introductions. So I'm Joe Nicholas, Rockies manager with FDL. I think had the chance to meet with most of you over the past year. Bill, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Bill Morris, and I'm the owner of Vapor Mitigation Sciences. I've been contracted to actually install the system. I've been doing vapor intrusion work since 2001, when vapor intrusion hit the national spotlight. I used to work as a regulator for the state of Kansas, so I was on the other side of the fence. I went to consulting in 2009, began overseeing these systems somewhere around 2002, 2003. I'm responsible for writing the guidance in Kansas. I'm a co-contributor and co-author of numerous guides, EPA's guide, ITRC's guide. I've reviewed California's document, New Jersey document, and I travel all over the world training people on vapor intrusion and vapor intrusion mitigation. I'm also a licensed contractor in the state of Arizona, so I know a lot about buildings. That's what makes me a very unique skill set when it comes to installing vapor intrusion systems in buildings. That's quick.
Perfect. Eric, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Can everybody hear me okay there? Loud enough?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. My name is Eric Lewandowski. I am a geologist with Geosyntech Consultants. I am based in upstate New York, but like Bill, I travel all over the world, focusing on vapor intrusion mitigation primarily. I am a nationally certified vapor intrusion mitigation professional, and I have worked on dozens of complicated large building mitigation projects. So I'm excited to be able to contribute to this one, and I'm happy to be here to answer anybody's questions about this system and the design and the approach tonight.
Motion School District, Dennis, you guys want to introduce yourself?
I'm Dennis Bay. I'm the Executive Director of Facilities for the school district, and Joe and I have worked on this since last May.
I'm Kevin Christopherson. I'm here at the school board. I sit on the construction steering committee stuff as well.
Jeff?
Doug Tennyson, a facilities project manager for the school district.
Everyone knows Chris. How do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes.
All right, I'm Audrey Gray with your Castle County Health Department. I'm the Public Health Preparedness Manager.
All right, thank you. So, who here, let's take a show of hands, who here, when they've come to these meetings in the past, may have felt like they were in a movie with Bill Murray and Groundhog Day, and you come to the movie? Yeah? All right, everybody's being honest at least. No, so I think everybody agrees with that. And you know, when we were getting ready for the meeting a couple of weeks ago, I was sitting down looking through my notes and kind of looking at the progression of how did we get here, where are we today? And I think sometimes on these projects, it is important to look back at where you came from, because it puts it in perspective of what you have accomplished. And so, you know, we're all here because the week right before the Memorial Week in 2016, we had CO2 in the school, and the school was evacuated and has been evacuated since then. FDL spent a tremendous amount of time and resources over the next month doing well work and analysis all over the town, and for lack of a better description, tearing up the town of Midwest, and looking at, you know, as well as looking on the reservoir side. And in June, we under the guidance of Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, we completed some testing, supercanister testing, detailed gas analysis to look for volatile organic compounds, VOCs. And you know, and I think that we've been making a lot of progress there, and then I think that's kind of where the frustration started coming in, because there wasn't a lot of activity till September, while we were waiting for the ATSDR to come back with an analysis of what those results were. And I won't belabor this. We talked about it last time, but one thing I would like to say is everybody in here after this meeting should thank Audrey, and, because if they hadn't pushed the ATSDR as hard as they had, we'd probably be sitting here today without having any results and not having made any progress. So I know that was a frustrating time for everybody, but I encourage you to think about your interactions with the federal government, those that work with other agencies of the federal government. And what they did that was really impressive to get the results in that short time frame. Once we had those results in September, the Natrona County Department of Health was able to start making recommendations to the school district. And the primary recommendation was that they hire their own consulting company to develop a reentry plan into the school. The Natrona County School District and the school board interviewed several companies throughout the course of September, and I believe October 1st, was that the date? I think October 1st, signed a contract with Geosyntec to be their advisor. And so prior to FDL even meeting with Geosyntec, there were a number of meetings with the school board, with the school district, and the Department of Health and Geosyntec to kind of develop what would the framework of a reentry plan be. And that's when we came in and met with Geosyntec, I believe, in late October. And they presented us the plan, and more or less it was, if you want to get the school back open, here's what needs to happen. So we made some phone calls, and quickly it became clear that Geosyntec was really the national experts, and maybe even the world experts in designing these types of systems. So in November, we signed a contract with Geosyntec to complete a design for the Midwest School of Vapor Mitigation Design. And that really brings us to the schedule that everybody here has. And so if you drop down to the second bullet, that's I believe was our last meeting, the meeting that we had in Midwest. And this was a schedule that we had worked with Geosyntec, and I believe was the framework for the schedule that was presented at the last meeting. So it shows you what were the proposed activities, and were they completed on time, or did we get them done? And so we had, the first thing we had to do was Geosyntec had to come back out in November and complete their diagnostic testing so that they could do the design on the school. That was completed on schedule. The mitigation design was completed on schedule on the 23rd, just right before Christmas. Coming back the first week of January, the design was approved by the Department of Health and the school district. And then also in the first week of January, we had a pre-bid walkthrough. So we had some pre-approved vendors that we invited to do the walkthrough. Obviously, we wanted folks that we knew were qualified to do the work. 3 folks showed up. We received 2 bids, and we were fortunate that Bill's was the best bid, because he's been very good to work with. But as those of you who have done any construction projects or really hired out any contractor help know, usually the person you want to do your work, other people want them to do work as well. So although we signed the contract or awarded the contract on the 3rd of February, the earliest that Bill and his crew could make it up to Wyoming to begin work on this project was the 27th, so Monday of this week. But I will note that if you look at the schedule, I don't know why we picked the 24th. It doesn't make sense to start a project on a Friday. We still met the schedule. And, as those of you that work in the school can appreciate, I'm sure, nothing in this school is easy. So we had originally planned 4 to 5 weeks before we had any bids come through. I think, Bill, we've talked 6 to 7 weeks. The other bid that we had was 8 weeks. So, we're going to do everything we can to beat that time frame. But Bill's in the business of same business as us, as hopefully under promising and over delivering. But really, where that puts us today is the mitigation system should be installed by early April. And The other thing, so there's kind of two pieces to re-enter the school. So one was installing the actual mechanical process to make sure that vapors don't ever come into the school if there is anything below the school. But the second one is, let's make sure that it's working, and that's measuring the gas, right? So we just received, 2 days ago, earlier this week, we received a draft indoor air monitoring plan from Geosyntec. So we're in the process of reviewing that. Once we get that finalized, it'll go out to the Department of Health and the school district for final approval. But essentially what that plan looks like is, today is there will be 4 CO2 sensors, permanent CO2 sensors. They'll be located in the boiler room and underneath the pool crawl space. Those are the most logical places because those are the lowest places in the school. CO2, if it's coming up, if it is coming in, it's coming from underground, so that's the first place you can see it. And also CO2 is heavier in air, so you want it in the lowest places. And then there'll be a monitor in 105 and the library, room 105 and the library. Those are 2 areas where we saw higher concentrations. Those will be tied back into the school's network system. And so they'll record live data, and so we'll be able, somebody, I don't know whether it be us or school district or someone, we'll be able to download that data monthly, so you'll have live data for the full month, and then it'll be automated so that it'll alarm. If there's a high level, it'll alarm, and it'll send out emails to whoever's on that distribution list. So the second part of it is, to step back, the reason why CO2 is important is because when you go back and look at the data that actually the Wyoming Department of Environmental Quality took out on the holiday weekend, there's a direct correlation between, they measure CO2 and VOCs, and there's a direct correlation between the two, which is nice for us because generally what that means is if you don't have CO2, you don't have VOCs from Salt Creek Reservoir. Doesn't mean you can't have VOCs from other places, but it means it's unlikely that you're seeing any VOCs from the reservoir if you don't have CO2. So that's kind of nice that it's sort of a sentinel gas that allows you to be alarmed if there's any issues. But nonetheless, we do want to make sure that we understand what the VOC levels are in the school. So over the course of the first year, there's a testing program. Kind of looks like monthly for 3 to 4 months, and then going quarterly for the rest of the year, I think, and then looking at all the data and seeing what makes sense going forward after the first year. And so that's kind of when you look at the second bullet on there, which was testing and approval. What we plan to do is within a day or two of getting the mitigation system turned on, we'll have somebody come out and take those tests. It'll probably take us 12 to 14 days, it looks like, to get results back. But the good thing is all the levels, all the thresholds have been established and have been approved by the Department of Health. So we already know what the guidance is there, and assuming everything meets spec, that would be approval for staff and faculty to enter the school, and then we'll need one more round of testing before students, or before it's open for students. So it's kind of what the schedule looks like right now, and I know that you guys wanted to get in this year, the school year, and sorry we weren't able to make that happen, but feel confident we'll be ready for you in the fall. So are there any questions for myself or Bill, who's an expert in this, or Eric, who was really responsible for the design of the system? What's that? I'm ready. I studied before I came.
Joe, there may be people who don't want to ask this. What are you doing and what does the system consist of?
I'll let the expert answer that.
Eric, I'll take this one if that's okay.
Yeah, I didn't even hear the question, so.
Okay. Okay. So basically, the system that was designed is a subslab depressurization system. And in some cases, we'll be ventilating. They kind of work similarly. So if any of you have ever had a radon problem, you've had a radon system installed, what that means is we apply a vacuum to the slab. Okay? We're going to mine and extract anything that's directly below the slab of the building. We remove that and we discharge it above the building. That's as simple an explanation as I can make it. Okay, so we're installing a number of suction points that were indicated by the diagnostic testing that Eric did in the locations that we need to get slab coverage of each of the building segments there. And then there'll be fans that are on the roof generally or on the side of the building, and then the exhaust pipes will be above the roof line. So there's no way that we can bring in train the gases. So as far as codes go, we can't be, within 10 or 15 feet of air intakes, things like that. So all the locations of the fans are in areas where there's no possibility of getting back in the building. And VOCs, the concentrations that are generally below the slab are relatively low, and they dilute and they break down in the environment very rapidly once they discharge from the exhaust pipes.
Being an old building, you're gonna have problems with the pressure, the intake, and the, just to make sure that I understand it correctly. So some are gonna be sucking, the others are gonna be blowing it out or whatever. You feel with the building, the way it's shifting already, are we gonna have problems with that 4 months, 5 months, 6 months down the road whenever we start doing all that?
No, the system's designed to remove very little air, just enough so that we have coverage across the slab. So when Eric did his diagnostic testing, if he put a hole in the floor here, he's measuring pressure differential at that extreme. And we're only going to apply enough vacuum to remove whatever's from here to there. Okay, so that's how everything's designed. So we're not taking out massive amounts of mass or water or anything like that under the slab. So there's very little change to the actual building itself or the materials directly below. So there should be zero impact to foundations, things like that. As far as ventilating or depressurization, it's a function of how air gets underneath the slab. In older buildings, such as this one, there's lots of gaps and openings and cracks and things like that. That allows air to move downward into the slab. Now, when you don't have a subslab depressurization or a subslab ventilation system, it allows stuff to come into the slab. Okay? So the system will be designed in such that when it comes across a crack, it's actually going to pull air down. You'll never notice that. The flow rates are so low, you wouldn't even know that they're doing it. So as we start up the system, if we find cracks that are large enough that they're moving enough air, you'll hear a whistle. So we'll go through and we'll be sealing those cracks as part of the mitigation strategy as well. So it's not just applying fans. That's half of it. That's probably 90% of it. But we will go through and try to get as many of those seams, cracks, things like that we can control and get access to, and we'll seal them up as we go. But it should have no impact on the building whatsoever. Yep.
So with that said, just to clarify, if one of the systems or areas go down, what kind of impact is that doing on the rest of it?
That's a great question. So as gas moves up through the environment, it moves through diffusion, which is a relatively slow process. And as a building sits there, you have a building that has a slab that has foundation. It kind of acts as an umbrella. So over time, the concentration builds up directly below the slab. Okay? Once we turn these systems on, everything that's built up underneath the slab is gone. So the only thing that can come out is what we call soil flux. It literally takes weeks and weeks and weeks and sometimes months for that concentration to get high enough so you actually start seeing it break through the slab again. The slab itself is a wonderful barrier. Okay? So in a lot of cases, you may see 1,000 times or 10,000 times more concentration underneath the slab than what you would see in the building. So once we remove all that, even if a system was to go down, you literally have weeks to months before that concentration gets high enough. So if one goes down, we don't go, ah! We let people know, we put it on the schedule, we come in and we replace a fan. It's pretty simple. Okay?
Tubes that are coming up, they're going to be, to get this stuff out into the air, they have to be well above all the air conditioning units and everything that's on the roof. How long will it be to dissipate this stuff into the air? Why doesn't it come down again?
The amounts that we'll be removing are so low, once you get that initial, whatever's underneath there out, it'll dilute rather rapidly. Because you're basically pulling out, 50 cubic feet of air per minute. And it's going into 1 billion cubic feet of air in a minute. So the concentration goes from this to nothing. That's why you don't see it. And we'll follow the same code that they use for vents for toilets, things like that. So when you think about air entrainment, there's code that says you can't have a bathroom exhaust near an intake and air conditioner. We follow the same thing. The code is actually 10 feet. So even in their studies, when they looked at plumbing gas, they know that within 10 feet, it can't re-entrain in the building. Now, what we're shooting for in these designs, we usually look at 25 feet because we get these same questions. So we're going to over-design one, and we're going to make sure that we're not anywhere close because we don't want that to be a possibility, ever.
Whereas this being, a little bit's being absorbed by our bunch. Goes up.
Correct.
It comes out and hits a bunch and it gets
Yeah.
absorbed and gets away.
Yeah, it just dilutes basically.
Yeah.
So if you put a drop of, iodine in a glass, it'll turn pink. You put the same drop in a swimming pool, you're never going to see it.
Right.
That's the theory.
How much noise can you expect from this system?
How much noise can you expect? With the ambient noise in a school, you will never, ever, ever hear it. Okay? Most of these things are quieter than the bathroom exhaust fan. That's not what I was going to call it, but.
Quieter than what's ever running back here.
Yeah, this is actually louder than what you're going to hear at the school. Okay? And none of the fans are actually going to be in any kind of occupiable space. That's part of the guidance and the code that we follow. We don't want those fans anywhere where the pressure side could actually get into the space. So we don't like putting them in rooms, things like that. So they're all going to be on the outside of the building, just in case one of our wonderful children decides to use it as access to the roof and they break a pipe. It's still going to discharge outside. It may not discharge where we want it, but we don't want those things in the building. So the children never hear it, I don't think.
I don't know who this question is for, but what's going to be the status on the swimming pool? Does anybody know that?
You had to go to the swimming pool.
We will have the air cleaned up.
I hate to do that to you, Kevin.
He mentioned swimming pools, I'm sure.
Bad science. I'm sorry.
We don't know. Swimming pool is the next thing, there's problems in there, and we have to look at that and address it. See if it's even fixable, we're gonna fill it with water, see if the aluminum tub is still sound. If that's still sound, it's gonna have to be lined with something. I think it is money, and so, no promises.
Well, that's the reason I asked, because that's kind of a major thing for these communities.
I know, and I'm well aware of that. We are, and we're gonna, but that's a whole nother project. As soon as we get heat in the building, but it got really cold in that pool and it's damaged, and we don't know. We just don't know the condition of the pool, so.
I'm glad you were here to answer.
So am I.
Are you working in the pool right now?
In the pool?
Or in the crawl space of the pool?
Yes. We are installing a system around the pool.
So, yeah, we're planning on having a swimming pool, mitigating all of that and everything, so it's, but, I made a promise that we're gonna get in there by December. I'm not making promises anymore.
Well, we don't want to put you on that.
Well, you just never know. Once we get into it and start looking at it, if we find something that's super major, the budgets we have now.
That's just a major thing for kids and adults both in the summer, the winter, to have open swim and stuff like that. And it's, for these communities as far as they are away from any other facilities such as that, it's a very important thing for us to have.
And I think the important thing to remember is it wasn't the best operating pool because it was so old, it was built in 1980. But it was something that we had before all of this took place. And so it's really not fair for some kind of accident to happen. And one of the very few things, recreational things that we have here at Midwest is taken away because of something like that.
I
I didn't say
So,
take it away.
no, but I'm just saying, so to please keep in mind that the whole idea that this was something that we had before this ever took place, and it would be really, and I think you answered it well, Kevin, is the idea that you're really gonna try to make, keep it that we have a pool, and that's awesome, and we understand the budget crunch and stuff. But this was something that we had before all of this happened, and we've lost a lot in this community over this deal. Not any one person's fault or anybody's fault, but we've lost a lot, and we shouldn't have to keep losing.
Oh, yeah, we agree, we're gonna do everything we can, but, I mean, if there's no money, if it turns out to be a $4 million fix versus a $400,000 fix, it's probably not gonna happen. But, we have 9 trustees, and we're cutting 10% out of the budget, and we do that, and so, we try to get the money she passed, make $4 million in the pool. And we passed, now we can't see CHS, but we can have a pool. I mean, the pool situation is a tough, not sad that that bond issue failed for 600 votes. It is. We're gonna do what we can. But there's no promise. We have no idea what we're gonna find when we get back in there and fill the pool water. We already know there's problems. We'll be honest, keep you informed.
Maybe for both of you, maybe for school district. I'm just wondering if there would be an opportunity for community members to actually go to the school about the time that it's okay for folks to go in, and actually look at what's been done. Maybe that's Deb's question, I don't know.
I think. yeah,
Because I'm curious.
Probably not the liners, but membranes.
Hey, if they want to crawl in a crawl space, I have no problem taking them down.
One of the things that we gotta be aware of is as soon as we get clearance, then we gotta go in and do the asbestos abatement.
Yes. I'm aware of
So
that, yeah.
that's gonna stretch to sometime in May.
Yeah, good thing.
Yeah. So immediately after, well, probably.
Well, we do have
No, I'm just
shortage of all
thinking.
our construction things, and as soon as they're done, we can set it through. Well, before the kids go back to school on the fall.
As far as thinking you're gonna see something grandiose, you'll be severely disappointed.
Yes.
Wow, that's PVC on the wall. Yeah, they're so simple in design. It's amazing these things work, but they've been used in the radon industry for almost 34 years. All we did was copy from the radon industry when we started doing these designs. They're really lackluster. But I'm more than happy to show off my work. It's a little muddy out there now, folks. So,
Kind of on that line, I guess the one concern that I have through all this, once we get back there, when we get to come back home, how do I word this? So,
Barbara,
we
you
have,
can come to join.
yeah, we're really gonna have to have a lot of, what is it called? It's not advertisement, it's
Good publicity and stuff like
PR.
that. Yeah.
To get back. We've lost tremendously, and I think you guys have an idea of that, but I'm not sure that you really have your head wrapped around it or your heart wrapped around the idea of what this has caused. And a real concern from all of us is what it's gonna do with our enrollment. So you have us diehards that we're gonna, have our kids come back and they're gonna graduate from MHS and that kind of stuff. But there's definitely families that have moved on, and there's definitely families that aren't coming back. We've already been told that, we've already started the enrollment process, and that's very scary for a small school. So we're gonna need help with that PR, and I hope that we're not left high and dry for that process. I'm not sure what that would look like, but maybe it starts off with simple tours or barbecues or things like that, because we're gonna need some help. That's my feeling.
Yeah, I think the one thing, so there'll be a final report from GeoSynTech, so from a safety standpoint, I think there will be a final report that documents everything, and so hopefully from a safety standpoint, that helps, one issue, and then you have all the other issues, and, safety standpoint in that, we'll be able to provide everything that hopefully alleviates parents' concerns.
How many systems will be installed total for the school?
That's a moving number at the moment.
That's a lot.
Eric, how many systems total did you have to begin with?
How many total,
Blowers, basically.
oh boy, I think there were,
19?
there should be, yeah, 15 or 16, something like that. Yeah, just off the top of my head, I don't know. It's in the high teens, yeah.
Okay, and we added one more already, because we split one apart because of the plumbing, so anywhere from 15 to 20. There's so many things going on in my mind right now. I'm sorry I don't have that perfect answer for you. I have a spreadsheet with all these little boxes on it that I'm supposed to be checking off as I go, and I'm only like this far into it. But there is, I think, 17 or 18 total systems, so it's pretty comprehensive. I think
Yeah,
the design.
I've got 17,
So there'll be-
counted up here.
There'll be 18 now. So, I mean, it's pretty comprehensive. Eric did a really good job of making sure he had coverage throughout all of the areas of the school and the different foundations that are there. And it has been added on to several times.
And that's only one for the whole, everywhere that's the crawl space, right?
Yeah, so when you think about systems, so the areas with crawl spaces, they're one system and they do an entire building because it's a crawl space. When you get into the slabs, there are multiple systems. So you have 3 crawl spaces, that's 3 systems. The rest of the building makes up the other 16 or 50. So it's pretty comprehensive. And Eric puts dots on paper. When I get there, those dots get a little elusive based on what we find. So we're making some modifications as we go. I'm on the phone with Eric daily. The FDL's in the room. So we're trying to make sure that we're not only doing the best for the system design and how it works, we're also working with the school to make sure that we're meeting their requirements and that we have something that is aesthetically pleasing and functional and safe.
I'm a bus driver for the school district and throughout the state, and we have the whole state watching, asking, and observing on what's going on and how this whole situation is being treated. Anytime I go anywhere, you know, you have a bus driver pass, and we have people come and saying, what's the school district doing? What's the oil company doing? What's going on? Are you guys coming back? And so the whole state's watching and watching us and seeing what's gonna come out of this.
Okay. I'm okay with that. This isn't my first school I've mitigated, by the way. So I have experience with schools. Generally, we wait until summertime, and being from Arizona, I would have preferred that, by the way. It's a little chilly out there sometimes for me. I'd be at home in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, not bundled up in 17 layers of school. The public perception is tough.
Yeah, it really is.
It is. The reality
We get
is,
a lot of negative, and we have to try to put the feedback in that you guys are gonna do this, and we're gonna be back in our school, and the school district's gonna support us on this, and the oil company's doing this, and you guys are coming in.
you have a wonderful facility. The system will work as designed. It will do what it needs to do to make sure that it doesn't get in the building. The learning curve varies from state to state, population to population. In a hydrocarbon situation like this, these are a lot easier to mitigate because Mother Nature does a much better job dealing with hydrocarbons, where we have big problems when you get into chlorinated solvents, and that's not an issue here, which is good. That's beneficial. Not only will this take care of CO2 and VOCs, things like that, it'll also take care of radon. In most cases, radon's about 1,000 times more hazardous than the VOCs we're talking about. So that's an added benefit that you get out of a system like this. The other thing that it does, it'll control some of that moisture that is in contact with the slab because we're putting a break of air, basically your vacuum, between the slab and the dirt. With that, you reduce mold concentrations as well. So these types of systems are very, very, very beneficial. I just wish we could get to a building side where they start doing this as they build buildings. It would make a lot of sense, but they cost money up front, and guess what? If they can save a penny, they'll save a penny. So getting people to put these types of systems in buildings already is tough. But these are being installed all over the country because vapor intrusion is happening everywhere. I've been in big cities, small cities, whatever. I just went to China. And I land, and I can't see the tarmac or the tower or the terminal because of smog. And I'm thinking, and you really got me here to deal with indoor air? Come on. So it is a perspective thing. The system will work, it'll work fantastic. Your school will be safe because of the way it's designed and how these things operate. And like I said, they've been operating forever. So how do you educate people? You tell them that. These things work great, they're fantastic. They got 35 years worth of track record. We know they work. That's why we install them. Okay?
So can I address that a little bit too? So one of the
Just
things.
put them in our back pocket and just pull them out.
So on your issue, one of the big holdups at the beginning obviously was like the health response, because we just don't have a lot of that subject matter expertise here, like within our health department, within our state health department even. So one thing that I've committed to doing is over the next year is working on actually creating a response plan surrounding oil and gas and specific to buildings and vapor intrusions and stuff. In typical preparedness response plans, we look at what the responsibilities are of other government agencies, of private industry, of school districts, and those kinds of things. So I'm going to be drafting a plan. I'm hoping to have it done by the end of September of this year. I've got an eclipse to deal with before then, so it's all crazy right now. But what I'm going to do with that plan is I'm going to be sharing that with the state health department and with all of the other public health preparedness folks throughout the entire state of Wyoming. So that way, if this happens again, that we have some historical information, because I probably won't be here forever. My counterparts won't be here forever, but those plans will be there. Because I think it was a poignant question that was brought to me at one point was, why do you have an Ebola response plan, which is probably not ever going to hit the state of Wyoming, let's be honest, but you don't have something for oil and gas, which has a very high likelihood of creating issues in the state of Wyoming, and that really stuck with me, and I'm like, I have not been doing this correctly. So we'll be doing that moving forward. We will be creating an after-action report that talks about lessons learned, how do we do improvements on our response and mitigation and that kind of stuff, because a lot of people don't see this as an emergency, and they didn't from the beginning. And so it was trying to rally those organizations surrounding us to say, hey, this really is a public health emergency, and we need some serious help. And so we did what we could, but we don't want to flounder like that again and waste time. So that way we can make sure that we're on it, we get stuff done immediately, we know who to contact, and those kinds of things. So that will be my, what I'm going to tell you all that I am going to do. And those plans are always public. So if you'd like, I can always pass that plan on. I love public input because I'm just one person sitting at a desk, and I seriously have learned so much in this that I feel very dumb at times. So I want to make sure I get all those heads together and we can make a really good response plan. So that way, if this happens again, then I can assist maybe another county that might have the same problem. So that's going to be my guarantee to you all. I promise that to you. So.
For clarification, everybody in this room though did think it was an emergency.
Yes, no. Yeah, everybody who's here, absolutely. There were some of those other agencies that we were like, no, you don't get it. You don't get what's happening right now. So,
Vapor intrusion is always an emergency for someone who's impacted by it. Whether it's a home, an office building, a factory, a school, a daycare. I've mitigated them all, and they're very personal to the people that are being impacted. That doesn't change, okay? So we're taking it seriously, and you guys will be protected when we're done. The building will be in good shape.
What kind of warranty do we get on the system?
It'll run. That's a good question. That's really one for Joe, I think.
Salt Creek's, it's Salt Creek's burden to bear, so, it's gonna have to run, right? But the system will work, there's general maintenance, but like I mean, he keeps making the reference to the radon system. I don't know who, maybe nobody here has a radon system in their house. I have one in my house, and every day I walk by and I see the YouTube, I see that it's pulling a vacuum, and I've been in there for 4 years now and haven't had any issues, and when I go by and see the YouTube's not there, isn't there, then I'll replace the fan and it'll be back working. So I mean, the expensive part is installing the piping, installing the vapor membrane. The maintenance on this is pretty simple. And you guys, instead of having the YouTube, you have a board. We'll talk about the.
Yeah, you'll have multiple panels throughout the building that actually show what each fan is doing and what each suction pipe is doing. So most of these are 1 fan, 2 pipes where we're sucking on them. So you'll be able to tell what vacuums in each one of those, what the fan is doing. There'll be an audible alarm, so if the fan fails, it's annoying, but it's meant to be that way. So we're not going to rely on you guys to look at that gauge every day. You'll hear that beep, that buzzing sound that'll tell you one of the fans is down. So it's an early way to say, okay, we got an issue, let's call somebody so we can get service call out there. The fans that Eric has specified, they're all radon fans. The nice thing about that is they have the best track record. When we start using, big industrial luxurious fans, what they do is they cost more. They have lower warranties, less, they're not as long, and they tend to break down more often. Most of these fans will probably run 15 to 20 years without a hitch.
And you see here in Arizona.
And I'm in Arizona. I'll come up in the summertime next time. How's that?
We have to make a call to get somebody out to fix it. Where's the nearest person that's gonna come fix it?
Casper.
The nice thing about the way we're designed, or Eric designed the system and the way the fans are installed, the fans basically are an integral component that can stand alone. Each fan will be set in there with a rubber coupler. So if a fan fails, it's nothing to have a fan on the shelf. You got 3 types of fans out here. One there, one there, one there. One goes down, you take the rubber couplers off, you pull the fan out, put the fan in, you slide the rubber couplers, and you're done. My service calls to replace fans are about 10 or 15 minutes. So it can be done by anyone, and they're basically just to flip a switch when you turn them back on. They're all 110.
School district maintenance people should be able to.
They should be able to do that. So if it comes down to something like that, as part of the O&M plan, there can be recommendations for that. And you guys just keep one of these things. And the nice thing, since they're all radon equipment, I can call and have one of those fans here in a day, 2 days. So they're right off the shelf type equipment. Eric designs the same way I do. Keep it simple. If you keep it simple, they work easier and they're much easier to take care of. So this will be the same way. There's nothing luxurious out there. There's nothing high tech. Like I said, you go out there to look for something exciting, you'll be pleasantly bored. Yeah. So, and they're designed that way for a reason. They'll run 10 years, 15 years, and you'll forget that they're even there. That's what the alarms are for, because you will forget they're there.
So kudos to you for putting me at ease. I really, it's amazing to me how calm I really feel right now. But the idea of, but let's, just to be prepared. So it would be just treated like a fire alarm? Is it just, if the alarm does say, hey, there is something here and things aren't going like it should? Or is it never anything that drastic, or?
No, just keep in mind what I said earlier. Once we remove the initial concentration, which will happen instantaneously, once those fans are on, if there's anything under that building, it's gone. Okay? So if a fan goes down, it's just something that we'll report to FDL or maintenance or whatever. Someone will make a phone call, we'll get a fan ordered, you'll come up Wednesday and we'll put it in. You'll turn the switch back on, you plug the alarm back in, it's done. It'll be so routine that it's no big deal. Most of the school districts that I've done, schools, that's what we do in the O&M plan. Just keep a fan on the shelf. If they go down, they're simple. They really are. So it's a 110. None of these are high voltage, none of them. So it's technology that is rudimentary, but it's that way for a reason. And they work fantastic. The success rate for most subslab depressurization, subslab ventilations that are used in the VI industry in America today run about a 99.5% efficiency the first time they're installed. Now think about that. Less than 1% we have to go back to and make modifications to the system after they're installed. That's the success rate we're having in the United States right now. It's fantastic. They work great. They really do. I've done a lot of public meetings.
The one idea, and I don't know if it's even, thank you for this, Jill, this is nice, and it's neat to see all the green check marks, and you pointed that out, huh? It was pretty close to being done. But with going back to that rebuilding stage, having to rebuild our reputation and rebuild our relationships with our parents and our students, and hopefully new students coming in and rebuilding sports and that kind of stuff, the sooner that we can get in and get back into the weight room and so kind of to you, Dennis, so that, yes, there's abatement that needs to be done, but at the earliest convenience that we can get into those small areas where things can kind of start back to normal, whether it is your PE teachers or your coaches taking athletes into the weight room and working out, getting ready for that 2017-18 football season, that kind of stuff. We're on the same page that we'll be able to do that as soon as possible.
Have you seen the schedule? Have you seen the schedule?
I don't think so.
Right now.
I open a lot of emails and stuff,
Yeah.
and I get the parent things and stuff, so.
Chris has got it. Right now, we're showing that certain areas of the building, especially for Darla to start cleaning, will be available the first week in June.
I should have had that. That comment was made, he cut his finger, I didn't have any Band-Aids, he gave me the right answer, I wish I would have added that before.
No, you don't.
Okay.
No, but first week in June, as soon as school's out, Darla can get in certain parts of the building and start cleaning.
Even prior, as soon as we've got clean air, right? As soon as we're cleared
As soon as that's bad, there's no reason to let it go.
in that area.
In that area.
Right, and it's all plastic down, right? So we can still be in there working around that, we have that.
I would be opposed to people being able to come in the building, with no, I don't wanna say don't belong there, but coming in to see our whatever, since things are visual, very visual, I would hope that we wouldn't open it up to just anybody making a tour whenever they wanted to, until we can do some stuff, because it looks like Chernobyl. Everybody dropped their stuff, they were done, and out, so to walk in there would be scary. I would be thinking, yeah, I don't know if they're gonna be able to do this, but when it was presentable to have people come through, not, oh my gosh, look at this mess, because it's a mess.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I know
People
that
that
need
right
to,
behind
like, the different agencies, but I don't want someone's parent being able to just come through and go, well, there's no wall here in the high school yet, and there's no wax on the
So
floor.
that is what Midwest can control.
Okay.
So my question, while we're talking construction, with the flood that happened in the high school hall and stuff like that, what,
Mayor, we're gonna sign off here.
What does that
Thanks for
look like?
joining us.
as far as?
Okay, yeah, thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Do we get new floors? Do we get new, bookshelves because they were damaged in the water?
The guy sitting right next to you can
Is
answer
going to
that.
answer all those questions for me?
Yep.
Want the answers right now?
Absolutely.
So, we'll get into, start the repairs just as soon as.
I'm just gonna stay here just in case they
So,
want to ask one
first
question.
part of May, we'll start the abatement, and the repairs will come right after that, in June, and everything should be complete in high school by the end of July.
So what specifically, what are you
So
doing?
we're replacing all of the boards, we're replacing the damaged wall up the chair rail, and we're repainting all the walls, replacing all the base that was removed.
New
you need furniture, we have a whole school full of it.
We're painting all the walls.
Mr. Casper and Big, do that school. There's a lot of good furniture in there.
So-
We are leaving. We are leaving.